Steve, thank you. The weather is warming up, and that means more time out in the sun, but it's important to be aware of the risk of skin cancer. In the United States, more than 9,000 people per day are diagnosed with cancer, more than any of the other cancers combined. So melanoma, the most serious, killing thousands each year, and the rates have been rapidly rising over the past several decades. New cases of invasive melanoma have increased 32% annually in the last 10 years. This despite of an increased use of sunscreen. So with us today, we have Dr. Jamil Nimi, a sports medicine physician over with SSM Health. Great to have you with us. And my first question, I want to get right to, why are the rates of melanoma and these other skin cancers going up despite that increased use of sunscreen that we're seeing?
Sure. I don't think they've actually nailed down exactly why. There's a couple of theories. Primarily is the paradox of sunscreen use. People think that if they put it on once that they're safe for the day. And we know that there is a time limit on the sunscreen, so you actually have to apply it every 2 hours, and that's what dermatologists recommend.
I think most people know to wear sunscreen on a hot, sunny day, but what are the other situations where it's necessary?
Sure, anything that can reflect the sun. So sand, water, snow, that's all reflecting UV rays, which is what the harmful part is. And then also, even though it might be cloudy outside, 80% of those UV rays can go through clouds.
I think the recommendation is when you get up in the morning to put a little sunblock on, just part of that normal routine to give yourself a little added protection. What is anything that we can do beyond sunscreen to protect ourselves? Should we limit our time out in the sun?
Absolutely. So limiting time in the sun is probably the biggest portion. Using sunscreen daily has been shown to decrease by half the melanoma rates. And then using UPF or ultraviolet protective clothing is also helpful.
It seems to be a pretty common misconception that people with darker skin don't need sunscreen. Why is it important for everyone to wear protection?
That's right. So although there may be lower rates of getting skin cancers, it's still very possible. So it's important for anybody.
And real quick, what are the actual symptoms of skin cancer that we need to be looking for on ourselves, if we're parents, for our children? What do we need to keep an eye open for?
You take a look at the moles that you may have, if there's ever any changes in size, coloration, or any other aspects of it, or if you have any new lesions, or perhaps you have some lesions that aren't healing and you thought it was just broken skin.
Wonderful. Dr. Jamil Nimi, a physician of sports medicine with SSM Health. Glad to have you with us today. Thanks for making time.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it.